The life of man is an unending battle for survival, one that ends not in triumph, but in the inevitability of collapse. Arthur Schopenhauer. What if the very pain that broke you was the only thing that could ever make you whole? You didn't notice it at first. The way she looked at you not as a man but as potential, a possibility, a blank canvas waiting for her to paint a masterpiece. You mistook that gaze for love, but it wasn't. It was projection hope disguised as affection. And so you tried. You gave. You endured. You bled silently behind your smile, thinking that suffering was the price of being loved. But here's the truth. You were never told she didn't fall for the boy who gave her everything. She watched to see if you'd survive giving it. You weren't being punished. You were being measured. Today's story begins not in anger or bitterness, but in that quiet place men rarely speak, from the place of silent sacrifice. And in tracing that path from blindness to understanding, from suffering to sovereignty, we uncover a truth far older than modern love. You were never meant to be adored, you were meant to be forged. They told you suffering was weakness. That pain should be avoided, silenced, medicated, or numbed. But no one told you that the very weight you carry, the invisible load pressing on your chest when no one's watching, wasn't a flaw. It was a forge, a crucible, a silent shaping ground where the boy you were is burned away and the man you could become is carved from fire and silence. You suffered because you loved deeply. You stayed when it hurt. You gave without asking. And in doing so, you believed your sacrifice would be seen, honored, returned. But she didn't see the suffering as a tragedy. She saw it as a test, not of her love, but of your strength. Because to the primal mind, pain isn't always something to be pitied, it's something to be measured. If you cracked under the pressure, she instinctively knew you weren't yet ready. This isn't cruelty, it's nature. And nature, unlike sentiment, is unflinching. It honors resilience, not intention. It rewards the man who suffers well, not loudly, not desperately, but with dignity. So know your suffering did not make you weak. It was the invitation into power. And every scar you bear in silence isn't a wound, it's a seal, a proof, a path. You were taught that showing your heart would win hers. That if you were soft enough, vulnerable enough, she would see your purity and respond with affection. But what no one told you is this. Her instincts do not crave sentiment, they're wired for strength. Not the kind of strength that flexes or boasts, but the kind that endures, quietly, relentlessly. To the primal female mind, strength is not peace. It's pressure endured without collapse. It's the storm, stood through the burden, carried without complaint. She doesn't look for ease. She looks for resilience. And when you bring her your tenderness, your brokenness without boundary, something inside her retreats. Not because she's cruel, not because she lacks empathy, but because her ancient wiring whispers, if he collapses here, how will he protect me there? You think she doesn't care, but it's not that. She senses weakness as risk, not romance. Vulnerability without backbone doesn't signal intimacy. It signals insecurity. And security is what she's biologically driven to seek, even if she can't explain it, even if she thinks she's above it. This is not an indictment of women, it's an unveiling of truth. And once you understand it, you stop trying to be loved for your softness and start embodying the kind of presence that commands loyalty without begging for it. Not by becoming colder, but by becoming stronger. You grew up believing in the myth of mutual vulnerability. That love was a gentle exchange of emotions where every tear would be cherished, every effort reciprocated. You were told that if you gave everything, your loyalty, your softness, your sacrifices, she would meet you halfway. But what you were sold was a fantasy, a sanitized illusion wrapped in idealism, not reality. The truth. Your suffering wasn't invisible because she didn't care. It was invisible because you expected her to validate pain that to her instincts wasn't proof of love, it was proof of fragility. You believed that love meant being open, being selfless, being endlessly available. But in doing so, you misunderstood the nature of attraction itself. Women aren't drawn to the man who bleeds for them, they're drawn to the man who bleeds and keeps walking. The one who carries the weight without collapse. The modern narrative asks men to show their wounds like trophies expecting applause. But biology doesn't applaud emotion, it respects composure. And when you try to trade softness for devotion, you only deepen your confusion. You weren't betrayed by her. You were betrayed by a culture that taught you love was owed to those who suffered instead of earned by those who endured. And in that betrayal lies your awakening. There's a quiet rage that grows in a man when his sacrifice goes unseen. You gave her your loyalty, your attention, your pain wrapped in silence. And when she didn't acknowledge it, when her gaze remained cold or her love faded, you looked for someone to blame. Her, society, yourself. But here's the truth. Schopenhauer knew, and few dare speak, nature is not cruel, it's indifferent. And it is in that indifference where its brutal beauty lies. A woman's instincts do not judge you by fairness or even by intention. They judge you by usefulness, by how well you carry the weight of existence. And that isn't evil. That's survival. You think she owed you grace because you loved her purely. But love alone doesn't earn loyalty, not in the primal world where she was formed. In that world, strength is safety, and safety is love. This is not a reason to hate her. It's a reason to understand her. What you call ingratitude may simply be nature working through her, testing you not to break you, but to see what remains when comfort disappears. The man who curses the storm misses the lesson. The man who sails through it battered but unbroken, he earns not her pity, but her respect. And more importantly, he earns his own. True masculinity is not loud. It does not demand to be seen or praised. It does not cry out for recognition, nor does it broadcast its burdens in the hope of sympathy. It is silent, stoic, enduring. And in that silence lies its power. You may think that if she doesn't see your pain, she won't understand you. But the truth is she's watching. She sees far more than she lets on. Not your tears, but how you carry them. Not your wounds, but whether you wear them like chains or like armor. In a world obsessed with self-expression, you were told to bleed openly, to share endlessly, to reveal your heart without hesitation. But the masculine spirit was never meant to find its worth in how loudly it suffers. It was meant to find strength in how quietly it endures. She isn't testing how much you feel. She's testing how much you can carry without crumbling. Your silence is not emptiness. It is discipline. It is the sacred restraint of a man who knows his pain does not define him. His response to it does. In the end, what earns her respect is not your cries for understanding, but your calm amidst chaos. Masculinity is not in being untouched by pain. It is in standing tall despite it. You thought she was fighting you. Her indifference, her silence, her challenges, each one felt like an attack. You labeled her cold, ungrateful, even cruel. But what if she was never your enemy? What if she was a mirror? Not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reflects who you really are when no one's watching. Because the truth is, she's not trying to break you. She's trying to reveal you. A woman's tests are not always conscious. Often she doesn't even realize she's doing it. But deep within her biology, woven into her very instincts, is the urge to measure, to see if you are who you claim to be, if you can hold your ground when the wind shifts, if your strength is performative or rooted. She doesn't need you to be perfect, but she needs to feel in her bones that you will not crumble, and so she becomes the fire, the weight, the silence. And through these trials, she unconsciously shapes you, not by softening your edges, but by sharpening them. This is not punishment, it's alchemy. You asked for her love, but life gave you her reflection, the reflection of your readiness, the reflection of your becoming. If you stop seeing her as a threat and start seeing her as the forge, you'll realize she wasn't sent to test your strength. She was sent to summon it. The world does not ask you to feel ready. It asks you to act anyway, to build anyway, to endure anyway. In the unspoken order of nature, man is not the one chosen, he is the one who creates. He is not waiting to be loved, he is forging something worth loving. This is not about dominance, it's about divine responsibility. It is the burden and the blessing of masculine existence. You were not made to chase approval. You were made to carve direction through uncertainty. In the grand rhythm of life, the masculine builds, the feminine selects. A man shapes the structure. A woman enters and amplifies what he has built. But she will not follow a man with no mission. She will not trust a man with no vision. Her loyalty is not to comfort, it is to capacity. And that capacity is not proven in your words, but in your actions, in your stillness under pressure, in your ability to bleed with honor, not complaint. A man who leads doesn't demand submission, he embodies certainty. And the woman who is truly feminine does not resist that certainty, she rests in it. You don't need to become louder, you need to become clearer. You don't need to be worshipped, you need to be unshakable. Because a man does not beg to be chosen, he becomes undeniable. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that begging for love only cheapens it, that seeking validation, whether from a woman's society or even family, leaves him hollow. You thought that if you gave enough, suffered enough, proved yourself enough, someone would finally see your worth. But the truth is, no one can validate a man who has not yet validated himself. You were never meant to live at the mercy of others' praise. You were meant to become so grounded in your own purpose that the silence of the world doesn't shake you. Sovereignty begins the moment you stop performing for affection and start living from principle. It's not indifference, it's independence. The kind of inner stillness that doesn't need applause to stay committed, nor affection to feel fulfilled. Yes, she may walk away. Yes, the world may misunderstand you. But the man who has built a kingdom within will not crumble without. Your spirit must not be reactive, it must be rooted. Because when your worth is no longer determined by her gaze, but by your reflection in the mirror, something radical happens. You no longer chase love, you attract it. Not because you need it, but because you've become the kind of man who no longer clings to illusion. He stands in truth, and truth doesn't ask for permission. It simply is. Rejection cuts deeper than most wounds, not because she walked away, but because of what it revealed, that your love, your effort, your loyalty weren't enough to keep her. In that moment, something inside you shattered. You questioned your worth, your masculinity, even your identity. But here's the truth, you were never told rejection is not your end. It's your initiation. It is not a curse, it's a rite of passage. Every man must face it, not once, many times. The pain of being unwanted burns because it strips you of illusion. It confronts the naive belief that love, if pure enough, is invincible. But purity is not what she tests. She tests presence. She tests foundation. She tests how you respond when your heart is broken. Do you crumble into bitterness or rise into clarity? The man who begs for closure never finds peace. But the man who learns from pain, who turns heartbreak into strength, finds something far greater than affection. He finds self-possession. Because once you've endured the storm of being left unseen or replaced and refuse to collapse, you become dangerous in the best way. Not to others, but to your old self. She didn't break you. She revealed you. And what you build from that moment forward will no longer be for her approval, but for your evolution. You were not born to be pitied, you were born to be forged. The most powerful lesson a man can learn is this: your suffering is not meant to be validated, it's meant to be transcended. You don't need the world to recognize your pain to make it meaningful. You need to recognize what your pain is building within you. In a culture that teaches men to seek approval, emotional comfort, and partnership as a source of identity, the truth hits hard: you were not born to be completed by a woman. You were born to become complete within yourself. When she doesn't see your effort, when your vulnerability isn't returned with affection, don't spiral into resentment. See it as nature calling you to deepen your resolve. Women are not the source of your strength, they are the reflection of it. She doesn't test you to punish you. She tests you to witness who you truly are. And if you crumble, it's not because she failed you. It's because you handed her the responsibility of holding your soul. Take your power back. Build a mission bigger than her gaze. Cultivate strength not for applause, but because the world and the people you love will one day lean on you. Pain is inevitable. Rejection is inevitable. But collapse is optional. Endure. Understand. Lead. And let your scars speak of the man you became, not the boy who needed to be seen.